Greetings to all Magpie fans wherever you are in the world. Every week is a special week, but there's fewer, more special and better weeks in football than the countdown to kick-off week for the National League, a bit behind the Premier League, a little bit further behind the EFL. But for Notts County and the rest of the National League, it's the big kick-off on Saturday. We go to Barnet, and I can think of few better people to have on the show than a man who is a legend at Barnet and hugely revered for his time at Notts County. Martin Allen, delighted to have you back on the show, and a belated happy 56th birthday, I believe.
46.
Did you say 66?
46.
You look
46.
You look very well. Them glasses, they make you look intelligent.
I'm not posing with these. If I don't put these on, I'm like, what is it? Who's that? What's that? So I do have to wear these. I don't like wearing them, but sadly I need to. I think I had some of these on in some of the games when I was at Notts County, to be fair. Could have had them on then.
You need some of the games since you left. You need blackout lenses. You need a blindfold on to watch some of our games, I'll tell you. And also a welcome to Leigh Curtis. And we're going to be talking tonight, aside from the obvious issues. But Leigh will be talking to us. He has a lot of background, inside info on the money that is exchanging hands for players, huge wages, huge sums of money in the National League, all at a time when the National League have commissioned a working party to investigate a salary cap to be introduced into the National League from next season. Now, that's not definite. It's a working party that the National League have set off to evaluate. And the figure they're talking about for a total budget, I say only, is £900,000. Clearly, Notts are going to struggle to fit into that by a long, long way. And the likes of Wrexham and Stockport, goodness only knows. Leigh, it's ironic that we're looking at a salary cap at a time when spend, and spend again.
Yeah, I mean, good evening, everybody. Just phenomenal records of spending this summer. I can't recall sort of my time covering the National League when Lincoln were in it, and obviously in the last two seasons. I can't recall ever where this amount of money has been spent on transfers. I know there have been clubs in the past who've spent big to get out of the league, such as your Salford Cities and your Forest Green Rovers, but they only seem to be the only ones capable of doing it. But this year, if you look across the board, Wrexham spending big money, Chesterfield spending big money, Stockport spending big money. There just seems to be a clutch of clubs whose level of spending is can sort of blow others out of the water. And I would include Notts in that as well. I think Notts have always been historically good payers, and while they're very good payers at this time around, I just think Wrexham, Chesterfield, and Stockport, from what I'm hearing on the grapevine, have taken it to another level.
Chesterfield is one of your former clubs, Martin. Unconfirmed. But we understand Shimanga, very talented player who you would know from your sort of extensive scouting expertise in the London area. He's coming up to Chesterfield for a transfer fee, reportedly of £250,000. Could you have seen Chesterfield in the... I bet you wish you'd had £250,000 to splash on a player when you were at Chesterfield, didn't you?
Paul, I'm just checking. My eyes aren't great. Did I hear you right? Did you say £250,000 on a fee?
That's the reported figure.
Well, I stand to be corrected, but I very much doubt if there's any League Two clubs that have spent £250,000 on a transfer fee, and there wouldn't be too many in Division 1 that have actually spent out on a transfer fee of £250,000. So I would be very surprised, and you did say not confirmed. Is that a rumour or is that a confirmed fact? Because that is an awful lot of money to be when there's so many free transfers available. But he is a good player. There's no doubt about that. And that's not down to the manager. For the manager to be able to get him, that is a very, very good deal. And I'm going to challenge you on it, Paul, about all this getting caps and salary budgets being restricted. If the owners have got enough money and they can cover it, and the crowds that come into these clubs when they're successful gets enough revenue into the club, I'm not sure I 100% agree with it should only be 900,000. If the owners of Wrexham, they're film stars, aren't they, or something, or whatever they're in, if they've got enough money and they sell enough films, well, why shouldn't they spend it on players to get the best team that they can possibly get? I don't see why they shouldn't, as long as they've got the funds to back it up.
Yeah, I mean, we'll stay on the finances before we talk a bit about what it takes to win the league, because I think it is a very interesting topic. And the 900,000 is something that's emanated out of the National League as a ballpark that they were looking at. One of the challenges I think the National League has is the huge disparity in size of club that now play in the National Division. You know, you have a lot of the bigger clubs, of which Notts will be one, Stockport, Chesterfield, Wrexham, that are effectively football league clubs or have a football league pedigree of professional full-time budget, staffs, all of those sorts of things. And then at the other end of the National League level, where historically you've had more clubs on skeleton staffs, budgeting for crowds of less than 1,000, there's a huge discrepancy. So I think because League One and League Two have been looking at salary cap, although they haven't implemented it, the National League have been looking at this as well. And I think it's going to be a huge ask to get a salary cap in for next season, given you now have these clubs like Wrexham and Stockport who have decided to make a major play for it. The counter argument says that owners can't always be trusted to look after the finances, and that clubs fundamentally are not self-sufficient. They rely on the benefactor. And whatever the benefactor is prepared to prop the club up, everything is fine. But if for whatever reason the benefactor falls out of love with the club or struggles to fund the club, then the club is in a hugely invidious position. I guess you are a traditional manager, Martin, that in many cases would have kind of been operating the purse strings yourself when it comes to budget. So you would work very tightly, I'm guessing, to budgets where you historically have been, correct?
Yeah, well, the one at Barnet, as you're talking about the promotion that you mentioned earlier, for us to win that league at Barnet, I worked very, very closely with the chairman, owner, Mr. Kleanthos, and we put a strategy together that was based on trying to get a small, good squad, and we knew that we could not compete. Bristol Rovers were in our division. I mean, Bristol Rovers, mega money, mega wages. And I would ring up an agent, for argument's sake, and say, would it be possible to meet you and your player on the M25 at South Mims Services for a cup of coffee at 11 a.m. And they'd just say, well, what's your ballpark figure? And I said, well, I'm not telling you that, but I'll come and let you know that we've got a good little team that we're building at Barnet. And he said, well, unless you give me the ballpark figure, we ain't coming. So I said, well, okay, well, if you don't want to come to meet me for a cup of coffee at South Mims, I don't want you. But anyway, the baseline figure would be about £1,200 maximum. We can't go any further than that. And the agent said, okay, fine. We're going to sign for somebody else for £3,000 a week. And I say, oh, okay. And then a couple of months later, you see these players playing for Bristol Rovers. They were well, far, far away from anywhere near the budget that we had at Barnet. So there is hope for a lot of these clubs that you haven't mentioned. There's hope for a lot of those clubs. You can still do it without the biggest and the highest budget, with good recruitment, good analysis, good personality character checks. And then right at the end, which was the magic that the chairman of Barnet pulled out the bag, he said to me, Martin, don't panic. Wait till a week before the season starts and we'll get 2 players in that haven't been accepted at a higher level, and we'll get them in and bring them in here. And I said, yes, taking a bit of a risk, innit? And he said, don't worry about that. That's my risk. And we signed Sam Togwell and Leigh Cook with a week before the season started, both good players who never had clubs, and they had to fit into our salary. And my God, we won the league.
I was going to ask you, so if I remember, would John Akinde have been one of the main cogs of that team for you?
Well, John Akinde, I was asked by, I think it was BT Sport, to drive up to Alfreton Town on a Sunday afternoon to watch them play Grimsby in, I think it was a semi-final or some cup or league or playoff or whatever it was. So it was like, oh, blimey, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon kickoff. It was boiling hot. It was thousands of fans. The game got delayed because there wasn't enough room for all the Grimsby fans. And Alfreton had the centre forward playing whose shirt was too tight. And he was absolutely, in the first half, oh my God, amazing. He was brilliant. And it was John Akinde. So I made a little note as you know, doing this commentary or whatever I was doing for BT Sport that day. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to find out about that player on the way home. So I found out from a friend who he was, how to get his number. And I rang him and said, you are going to sign for me for Barnet this week. Come and meet the chairman. I told the chairman said, we can't afford those wages. I said, well, don't sign the other player. Get rid of that other player. And we'll give this player his wages on top of what we were going to offer him anyway, double. So John signed, and of course, that trip up there on that Sunday afternoon, Akinde, I think it's respectful to all the rest of the Barnet champions that I had, Akinde was the difference. So if your club has not signed that centre forward that's going to get you 24 plus, you are not going to go up automatic. That's a fact. You've got all the top teams. You've got to have one, and history shows in the Vanarama National League, you've got to get a centre forward that's banging 24 plus to get promoted.
Very interesting insight. Very interesting. Am I right in thinking you more or less led from start to tape that season, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I had a big argument with the chairman again. 2 weeks before our first game, Paul, was away at not Southport, not Southport, just south of Liverpool. Oh God, nearly swore then. Can't remember the name, but I'll get it in a minute. And I said that we should be going up overnight on the Friday for the game on the Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. And he said, no, you can drive on the day. Anyway, we get halfway up the M6 and there's a crash. And it's one of those crashes where the bus doesn't move. And we've got our first league game of the season and it's now 11 o'clock. Anyway, we finally got to, it wasn't Tranmere. Oh my God, where am I? Oh, donut. And we turned up at the ground at 20-3. The referee was waiting. I apologised, done everything I needed to do. And he said to me, would you like to delay the kickoff, Martin? He said, we've seen that there's a crash on the motorway. And I said, no, thank you. We're absolutely fine. So we got all the kit off. We were very calm. We got our gear on. We had a chat on the bus to make sure we kept our nice level. After 20 minutes, we were 3-0 up. 3-0. And the players didn't have a warm-up. They just went out and played, just like you do on a Sunday morning, just walked onto the pitch. So anyway, we won the game 5-0, I think it was.
Chester, Martin, was where you were.
You got it. I'm terribly sorry. I forgot that. It's my,
I had to look it up.
And within 5 minutes of the end of the game, Paul, we'd won 5-0 away at Chester. I had a phone call onto my phone from the chairman of Barnet. Hello, chairman. Martin, I told you don't need to go overnight on these away trips. He said, good result. Thank you. Bye-bye. And he put the phone down. We didn't go away from home for the rest of the season. We travelled So to cut the costs, we never had one overnight away trip because we won away at Chester. And again, we turned it into a positive. We didn't have the budget to go overnight. And we stuck with it all the way through, and all the senior players that we had, I think we turned it into a positive for ourselves.
Leigh, what do you think of listening to those comments with Martin? The goal scoring capability, the striker. I know you have views on this as well. What do you make it? Because I think as Leigh really has just popped in on our message, you could listen to Martin Allen all day, top bloke. While Martin's off wherever he's going, and we're looking at his red velvet curtain upside down. Leigh, what do we reckon of that?
No, I agree with Mark, and I think you have to have that marquee centre forward, that centre forward who's capable of getting you 25 to 30 goals. I think history has always dictated that the successful teams always have a very good, strong goal scoring number 9. I think Martin's right. History has proven that. What I like about the Akinde story is it's good recruitment. He's gone to watch him in the flesh, identified him, brought him in, and I can't remember how many goals he scored for you that season, Martin, but it was a lot, wasn't it? Because his record at Alfreton was frightening as well, wasn't it, during that time?
Yeah, it was. And people, I suppose you could turn around at some point and say, well, that was a lucky signing. That was lucky. You were lucky with that one. And guess what? Alfreton was 20 minutes away from Notts County. And when I went to Notts County, I said to one of the people that sacked me, why didn't you sign him? Why didn't you sign him? Like, I sold him 2 years later for 500,000, I think it was. But you wondered why other managers or other people never went in for him at that point. And as all fans would know that watched that Barnet team to be champions, he was the difference, and he was he took us to be champions. It's fact. Why didn't the others do it? I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, I'd like to get Martin's thoughts on this, actually. Do you think managers now do enough research on players in the flesh, or do you think they rely too much on Scout 7, etc.?
Yeah, well, there is, so everybody knows, there is all these tools, I think they call them, the uni boys, where you get videos sent through, this and that, and all these good players and their stats, which are important. They are very, very important. But no, I used to try, if I could, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it was a minimum requirement of 3 games in those 3 days, minimum requirement. So after training, get out there and find the players. And God bless, that's why that Brentford team I had was pretty good. The Barnet team I had was pretty good. The Notts County team, in 6 months' time, if they'd have just opened their eyes, they'd have seen I could have got rid of about half a dozen of those and bought in 3 new ones for the same money, and we would have also been a really good team because I had them ready to come in. And with the Barnet boys, it was the same. I had all these decent players ready to come in. Is it better? Well, I see some of the managers. I've been doing my research this afternoon, and there's some, how can I put it, more experienced managers in this division, ready for the challenge to get another promotion. And there's a lot of young managers who are on their way up, who hopefully will win a promotion or win a championship and be a champion, that go on to have careers in the Football League, and who knows, not even the Championship and maybe the Premier League, because the opportunities will arise if you win this league. But, you've got people like Gary Johnson, who else? You've got Paul Hurst, Phil Brown, these managers, Phil Parkinson, they've done it at a higher level, but it doesn't guarantee that you're going to win this division, because this is a tough league to win.
Martin, I value your thoughts on this, because clearly we know your recruitment is exceptional, and you pride yourself on going around the grounds and seeing the games. You've just turned 56. I think most of the younger managers coming through are less reliant on doing games than perhaps the previous generation.
Yeah.
So we look at Notts County. We're owned by two Danish brothers, Alexander and Christoph Reitz. Put a lot of money into the club. They have quite an expansive data company that is used to supply football data to betting companies and those sorts of people all throughout Europe, internationally. So there's a wealth of data that goes down as far as National League North and South, I'm led to believe, in terms of video data. And so the model that they're looking to bring in here is with a young manager, English manager in Burchnall, who's coached abroad, but his title, which is interesting, is head coach. And you know, and I know, you never want to be called head coach. My good friend Martin O'Neill has not taken jobs when he's agreed everything else because they wanted to call him head coach. He says, I'm the manager. If you're not going to give me the manager title, I'm not coming. So we are shifting a bit, but this is the model Notts have got. And so there's a lot of data that goes in, a lot of video clips. And so on the one hand, Kewell Roberts, Blythe Spartans, ex-Newcastle, was signed largely from an initial recommendation through Football Radar. Yeah. And that model has continued with some with good players, others perhaps not so successful. But that's a model that Notts are clearly going to follow and follow more. Brentford, another one of your old clubs, are held aloft as the shining light of this type of approach. Where do you see all this fitting in? You know, is everything a hybrid? You need the football knowledge, you need to see a bit, you understand character, and the data comes in, or do you foresee now everything will become data led?
Yeah, it's not everything data led. I was very lucky to be at Brentford on Friday night to see them play against
what a game!
Arsenal. It was an awesome game of football. The atmosphere was spine tingling. It was amazing. But I've been there on and off over the years, going to visit games, and obviously it's a nice place for me to go back to. And yes, their recruitment has been, like Brighton's, absolutely brilliant, and it's helped both football clubs. Brighton established now, I would say, in the Premier League, and with Brentford, the performance level and the amount of sales of centre forwards over the last 4 seasons has been quite unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. Picking up players for 5, 7, 9 million and selling them for double, treble prices, and then replacing them again and then doing the same again, and just keep building and building the club. They have a fantastic model, but Thomas Frank, the manager, head coach, is involved in that. He does get an opinion who comes in, and it's presented to him, I believe, with options. Say he wants a right back. They find the right backs. They fit the budgets to what the type of player he wants. If he wants a 5'9" winger type fullback, they will find them. If he wants a right back that's 6'2", like say that would play for Crystal Palace under Roy Hodgson and stay on the halfway line and not overlap, they would put those types of players to him. And then he would video, and maybe there would be times where he could fly abroad, watch the players on a Sunday afternoon, Saturday nights when they play, come home and say, yes, I like him, I don't like him. And I think it is still Thomas's final decision, although the owners do get a choice, I think, of sometimes they bring a player in, and it works for Brentford.
That model has clearly worked for Brentford in the upper echelons of the Football League and now the Premier League. Do you think the skill sets there totally translate into the National League as well?
Yeah, well, I think when those the owner of or chairman, I think he wants to be called, Mr. Benham at Brentford Football Club, and the owner or chairman of Brighton, Mr. Bloom, they both have what they call betting companies or gambling companies, where they work on stats and very fine margins, who's going to win, who the best players are, analysing individual and team and collective performance. And I don't think it's out of order for me to say it. They're both very, very, very successful, wealthy men, which has allowed them to invest in their football clubs like at Brighton. You got to remember, we were playing Brighton when I was at Notts County. So Notts County,
and Brentford. I'm not sure
one of my
there was
earliest
Brentford
games was against Brighton when they won the league, which is where, and they've snowballed into this unbelievable club in the Premier League. Not the most glamorous, but they keep picking up players for low fees, making them good, making it a good team. They keep improving year in, year out. Can it work at conference level? Yes, I think it can, as long as the right people are involved as a go-between between the manager, head coach, who has a rationale that it's not just that money ball, it's also personality, it's character, previous, amount of games they've played in seasons. So there's lots more things go into it than just stats, definitely.
I tell you, small world. I'm not sure. I think he came just after you left when Keith Kewell came in. There was a video analyst that worked at Notts County, certainly under Keith Kewell. Do you know where he is now? He's head of scouting at Brentford, Mills. He's head of recruitment, head of scouting analysis at Brentford, and he was a little video analyst at Notts County, certainly under Keith Kewell. I'm not sure whether he would have been there when you were there, but
yeah, I know him. He's he knows footballers and he goes to games. He would have put the. I mean, that Sunday afternoon I spoke to you about at Alfreton. I mean, I live down near Reading. Alfreton's, is it not? It's north, isn't it, of Nottingham?
Yeah, not far. 15 miles tops.
Yeah. So I could have said to my assistant manager, "Oh, you got a game to do Sunday afternoon. Go to Alfreton and watch that game against Grimsby, because there might be some good players playing in that we might be able to get." But you have to put the effort in to go. You have to get off your backside and go and do it. You could have stayed at home and had a Sunday roast, had a kip, and then watched the Premier League game that starts at 4:00. But you've got to be bothered and you've got to put the effort in to go out and do it and get off your backside and not just sit around thinking, I'm Mr. Super Duper Manager because I've now got a manager's job and I've got a big club and a lot of people that adore me. It can't be like that. That is not that job. And he does his graft and he's out and about all the time watching football matches.
I mean, I remember when I covered Lincoln. I mean, Keith Alexander was another manager who you would see him. I mean, when I covered Gainsborough for a little bit, you'd see him down there every Tuesday, just checking in on the opposition. When he got the Lincoln job in that first season when they came out of administration, I mean, they were the bookies' favourites to go down. They had no money. So Keith went out and just watched non-league game after non-league game. And he brought in the likes of Simon Yeo, Simon Weaver, Ben Futcher, players on free transfers who've been at non-league and not only given Lincoln a prayer that year. And they ended up finishing the top 7 and played Bournemouth, obviously, who's since gone on and gone into the Premier League. But I always find it interesting, that mix of, okay, the analysis and the data is very, very good, but I do believe that managers get a better feel for a player if they go and watch him once or twice over the course of a 90 minutes. Is that something that you would agree with, Martin?
100%. 100%. And the other thing, Leigh, that I would add on to your comments there were personality and character. Does he turn up early for training? Is he the first one out on the training pitch? Or is he the last one? Is he late for training? Does he always turn up for training? Does he blame everybody else or does he take responsibility? Is he going to get better and improve, or is he going to be on a slippery slope and just be happy and accept the life that he's in? Is he a sulker and a moaner? All those types of things are absolutely key. And I think we all must remember that Leicester City team that won the Premier League, and they had that camaraderie, the unity, and they had a hunger and desire, and they had a centre forward that had come from non-league. And so bringing players up, oh my God, to see them flourish is the best feeling. And, I think that also really does come into it when you're recruiting players.
If we look back to last season, Martin, because we try and identify what we want to go up as champions. We've made the playoffs the last 2 seasons, but by we I mean Notts County. So Sutton were the surprise package last season. Barrow the season before. I don't think there's anyone really that would have said Sutton were even a playoff contender, let alone winning the title. It's not far from you. It's on your manor down there. What do you think Sutton did that the bigger clubs with bigger budgets didn't do?
They've got good players. They're in a good location, and there's a lot of players in that southwest London, just south. Location is for me is key, and that's why it was good for me at Barnet. And I always thought Barnet was a good club because there's so many big clubs around there wanting to loan players out, releasing players, and opportunities for 19, 20, 21-year-olds. You could take and get them into Barnet to train and play on low salaries. Sutton, they've got good players. You got to remember they played Arsenal just 2 years ago, didn't they, in the FA Cup at home, and gave them a real good run for their money. So they've been building for the last few years and done really, really well. And when I was making notes for our chat tonight with you, Paul and Leigh, I was looking there and I put at the top of my list Wrexham. They've got the hardest job because everybody's going to expect them to do it. Everyone knows they've spent mega dough. Chesterfield are going to be right up there. Notts County are going to be right up there. And you forgot to mention a couple of other league clubs that I would call league clubs in the past, with Grimsby, Southend, Yeovil have been up in Division 1. Did Yeovil get to the Championship a few years ago?
Yeah, under Gary Johnson, wasn't it? Under Gary Johnson, yeah.
So, that's another big club. And then I turned over the page. Wealdstone, Aldershot, Altrincham, Borehamwood, Bromley, Maidenhead, Kings Lynn, Solihull, Weymouth and Woking. Nobody will mention any of those clubs to get promoted. I guarantee one of those clubs minimum will be in the playoffs, challenging all those what I call used to be Football League clubs. And I don't say they deserve to be Football League clubs. History doesn't mean you deserve it. You deserve where you are right now. You've got what you got because it hasn't been done properly. And there's some good young managers, some experienced managers. And I really do think it's an exciting and a very, very difficult task to pick out who you would think would be the champions.
I mean, going back to Sutton, I remember when Notts went there and won. I mean, they won in the last minute, didn't they? I think Kyle scored in the last minute. But what struck me about their team, although there is not any player who you would say is one of the standout stars of the National League, and you could probably name them, but what they were so well organised, a great unit, all knew their roles and responsibilities, very difficult to break down. And I think when you haven't got that money, if you've got that, that's just as good as having a bank load of cash. If you can be so difficult to beat, and they were so, and they were very good in their recruitment. They got the lad from Millwall, Ola Ofe, unbelievable player. What a signing that was. And I think that and a mixture of just being so well trained on the pitch and every player knew where they had to be without the ball. They were a very, very good team, very good team. And it just goes to show you do not need, millions and millions to get out of the division.
Well, another good example, when you've just brought those things up and those traits that you're saying about to make a good team, not far from where I live, is Maidenhead United. Maidenhead, they're not part-time, they're not full-time. They train a couple of days a week, I think. But Alan Devonshire basically has his recruitment, not from the Football League coming down to Maidenhead. He gets the players from Conference South and around London and brings them up to give them an opportunity to play at this level. And the hunger, energy, enthusiasm, camaraderie, unity of this sort of youngish group. What Alan Devonshire's done there on the budget that he's done at Maidenhead has been quite unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, finds players, and he's always out and about watching games. His son is a master scout, not Boy Scout, a recruitment officer, and they do a brilliant job at Maidenhead. And I'm sure there's quite a few other clubs that should be grateful for what they've got, even if they're not going up. Just to be punching in this division is a fine achievement.
Do you think recruiting those players from lower down, do they have a better camaraderie because they've been given an unbelievable opportunity to make it to the big time, rather than if you're signing players who are on the way down, they've already experienced it, so it's not quite... Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying in terms of that, having career ambitions?
Well, after the chairman of Barnet said to me, on the Friday night, you are not going to Chester overnight. I'm not paying, I don't know what the bill was, $4,000 or whatever it is. I had to get the senior players into my office, and we got people like Leigh who had played for Fulham, like how many million he was, I don't know. And all the senior players that have been in the Football League, not the others, I called them into my office. I locked the door. I said, right, there's two ways we're going to deal with this. You're going to sulk, moody and cry, or you're going to shrug your shoulders, deal with it and get on with it. So they all sort of looking at each other like, what's the bad news? Right, we are going on Saturday morning up to Chester. It's not an overnight stay. And I laughed, right? I went, I thought it was ridiculous. I've never known anything like it. So I said, right, Cookie, what do you reckon? He said, that's all right. He said, I've got young children. I prefer to stay at home. Togwell, what you saying? He said, that's all right. I've got two little girls. He said, I'd rather stay at home on a Friday night. So it went round to 3 or 4 others. I said, perfect. If I hear any of you moan or complain in a negative way, you're not travelling. Great. And I said, spread the word. And we took it as a positive. We used it. And even turning up late, we used it as a positive. And it didn't bother them. And we just got on with it. So there will be some clubs in the lists that I've read out that will be there or thereabouts. And there will be new stars and new names on their way up into the Football League from the season ahead, without a shadow of a doubt.
It's interesting, Martin. You talk about the reverse psychology. I remember when the year Barrow went up. Who's the manager? Great manager now at Bolton.
Ian Evatt.
Ian Evatt.
So when Barrow came to Notts, big game for them. They didn't come on a team bus. Didn't have a team bus. 4 cars, 5 cars, 2 or 3 players in each car. That's how they pulled up at Meadow Lane. And they battered us. Was it 2 up within about half an hour, Leigh? Absolutely smashed us off the park. Now, I don't know whether that was budget, because most of the players lived in Manchester, and but I'm guessing again there. Well, it's clearly nice to have champagne for everything in terms of approach, the best this, the best that. It's not always the be all and end all, and it's how you manage situations and, as you just said, try to turn them your advantage. Yeah,
definitely. And that's psychology. And of course, there's so many different facets that come into it, of player recruitment, managing your players, looking after your players. There's been a few cases recently where the Brentford players, Ivan Toney in particular, he said that Thomas Frank is like a dad to him. He asks and he knows all about his family. He cares about our well-being and our welfare, not only as us as footballers, but also our well-being as family, and that we've settled in okay, that the house is okay, that the children have got into school. Not just Ivan Toney, because he's the best centre-forward, or a brilliant centre-forward, the whole group. And I was interested in what he had to say. And I do think that those skills go a long, long way to getting a football team to be successful on the pitch.
You spoke a bit about Wrexham earlier, and because of the money that's been spent, signing players, league players, they've gone for the big centre forwards, centre halves. Phil Parkinson is clearly a very talented manager. They have Les Reed, who's gone their technical director, haven't they?
Les Reed, not from the FA, that Les Reed.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, ex-Charlton.
That's it, Gordon Bennett.
Yeah.
Has he really?
Yeah. He's gone there.
He don't play though, does he? By the way, he don't actually go over the white line. And so, for everybody that's sort of or whoever listens to this, Les Reed is a football coach, who's a good football coach, but I think he's been a manager once, and he at Charlton for a little while.
Yeah.
And he's a nice he's a good guy. I don't think he's ever won a championship though, has he?
Well, like some of my current guests on the Magpie Circle podcast, you mean, who are multi-championship winners.
Yes, I don't think he's one of them. So no, he will. I'm sure they'll do very well. Phil Parkinson is a good friend of mine, and Phil Parkinson is an excellent manager. And I've seen their recruitment. They've recruited very good players. Their owners have gone pretty high profile, which I don't agree with. But hey ho, it's their money, their football club, and they've got the choice to put themselves out in the front window. We'll see if that works.
Did you see? I thought on the one hand, the PR man in me, that's my career, thinks it's a great PR stunt. Have you seen that today or yesterday? The big Hollywood sign in Hollywood, the big Hollywood on the sort of built into the cliff top that's iconic. So obviously Wrexham have the A-list actors owning them. So they've gone and done a version with Wrexham on top of this colliery tip in Wrexham. The big letters looking like Hollywood. And it's sort of not gone down too well in certain quarters, to be honest with you.
What sort of films are they in, those two blokes?
Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds was in just about everything, wasn't he? He was Deadpool. That's what he's most renowned for.
That you've never watched, Martin, obviously.
What's it called?
Deadpool.
I thought you said Red Bull.
No, it's based on a Marvel comic character.
God, as if I'm going to watch anything like that. A comic character film.
Yeah.
Was it for little kids?
It's quite violent, actually. To be no, I certainly wouldn't recommend anybody letting their kids watch it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, dear. You might not have the switch, the talk section switched on your screen, Martin. So we get that. We're getting loads of comments. And Leigh, Martin really should have managed in the top flight for a good period of time. He's just football through and through with bags of common sense about the game and life in general.
Some people have been drinking early, I think, haven't they?
It is one from ZO, because I think it's fair to say that our head coach, Ian Burchnall, has a philosophy that he wants to bring into this football club in the way he wants us to play. So 3 at the back, playing the ball out from the back, lots of goals, an expansive type of game. Yeah. And Zedo says, does Martin think you can get out of the National League playing, inverted commas, attractive football? Or do you need 1 or 2 brackets enforcers to allow others to play in the last third, brackets Neil Warnock style?
Honest answer. We started a little bit for the first time in my coaching at Notts County, trying to play different style of football. And then when I really got it to take off, when I had some time out and I went to manage Gillingham, and we played a 4-1-3-2 formation. This was quite a few years ago, with a holding midfield player that could just pass it short and square and keep the ball moving, which would allow our fullbacks to advance and get down the wings. And one centre forward had to go in behind to try and stretch the back 4 of the opposite team. So we had an option to turn them. Everybody knows what that means, don't they? Turn the opposition defence. And then the other centre forward would always have an option to come back into midfield and to link up the play. The right-sided and left-sided midfield players of a 3, we gave them a license to go forward and get in the box as often as they could. And if they went past the number 10 had to rotate and play in his position. Right now, sitting in this little room talking about that may sound like, oh my God, mad. But it worked. And for Gillingham, we set a record, I think, for Gillingham, 9 straight wins because nobody could get the ball off of us and we just played. I'd never seen a team like mine play like that. It was like, wow. And we carried it on and on and on. And it wasn't until the last couple of months of the season when it got a bit tense and it got a bit tight, where we started then, because we were 7 points clear for the virtual whole season. We started to change a little bit because all we needed was draws, basically, not to lose, and we would have won the league. It was clear. And we won it. And then at Barnet, we did the same. At Barnet, we just scored for fun by playing that style of football. And I think it's good that the manager comes out publicly and says, this is my philosophy. We want to play open, expansive football and score lots of goals. Well, every manager in the country is going to say that. I wouldn't say nothing. Get your head down, get your team on the pitch and let your team do the talking, and let them play it out, how they want to play it out, what you've been working on the training ground, and get your points and get your results across that way, rather than, oh, we've got this wonderful philosophy, because you can't always play like that. It ain't going to work.
Did you sign players to fit into a system that you knew you were going to play? Or did you look at your players and thought, to get the best out of these players, I need to play this system? Which comes first for you?
When I went, Paul, I'm not going to ignore your last question.
No.
Earlier, you said to me, I've been an expert or something, whatever you said about player recruitment. That is not 100% right. My recruitment, which cost me at Chesterfield, was poor. The players I bought in were not good enough, were not right in character, mobility, athleticism. They were not right. They were not good enough for Chesterfield, which is why it went Pete Tong for me personally. So let's get that one cleared up. What was your next question?
I've forgotten now. Right. When you set out the way you want to play, do you recruit players to fit into that system, or you come into the club, look at the players you've got and say, actually, the best system that suits these group of players is that? Which way round, or is it a mix? The reason I ask, I was going to say best podcast. Clearly, that's the one we've done with you. The second best podcast is one that I did with Howard Wilkinson, who cut his coaching and managerial teeth at Notts County under Jimmy Cyril. And Howard came in, and he was he kind of joined Notts, but no one knew for 3 months, and he just watched all the players in the crowd from the crowd at the end of from the end, coming to the end of the season before he started. And he then joined up with Jimmy Cyril, and he said, right, this is a style I think these players can play, which was revolutionary. Sweeper, Pedro Richards, sweeper.
Yeah.
And initially the players were going, you know, what are you on about, Howard? I can't do this, can't do that. But Howard kind of said I had a vision, and that's what I thought was right. And he said, and at that point, I could never sign more than 3 players into Notts anyway. So we had a philosophy or system that suited those players. He went to Sheffield Wednesday, and he played 3 centre halves. We'd always played 4 at the back for Notts. Your thoughts?
Well, it's been different at different clubs. I've been brought up and I played as a young player 4-4-2, and then there was a change in my life when I was 15 when I left school. My youth team manager at Queen's Park Rangers, who was newly appointed into his first coaching job, was a man, not a guy, sorry, that's disrespectful to my boss, was a guy called George Graham. And as you can probably imagine, for the first year, I clashed with George Graham. I had never known this way of playing. I did not know what was happening. And with a big gob, I didn't listen. I challenged him. He broke me. I cried. I wasn't playing. I was sub from being a good, successful schoolboy player at district level and, national level. All of a sudden, I was watching him coach a team to win like he did with Arsenal. And that tough Arsenal team was what we were like at QPR. In my second season, it was either, he gave me a bit of an ultimatum. You're either going to fit in to what I want, because we're not going to do what you want. Listen and learn and take it on, or you can go. That was an ultimatum he put to me. From that point onwards, I listened to him. I'd done everything he wanted. I never challenged him. I never pulled faces when he was doing stuff that I didn't know about. And I learned from him and I picked it up. So when I finished playing, I got that first job at Barnet. I didn't get paid at Barnet, by the way. I was just doing it because I wanted a job. We played George Graham's way of playing. 4-4-2, cut the line off, show them inside. As soon as they pass it sideways, the back four are going to squeeze the pitch. One big centre forward and the other one's always going to go behind. No passes at the back. Get it to the front. Let's play. Win the knockdown. Get it wide. Get a cross in. And if the cross is going in the box, 3 of you have got to be in the box. There's always got to be 2 on the edge. And if it goes out past the edge of the box, you centre halves, you better get to that ball first. This was done in training. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And we trained morning and afternoon every day of the week. And if you didn't do those drills how we wanted them, it was non-stop repeat. We were bored. We won every game. We won all the time. We won everything. The only game we lost was away at Manchester United in the FA Youth Cup semi-final at Old Trafford on a Tuesday night, when they had a centre forward who'd played in the World Cup for Northern Ireland called Norman Whiteside. He scored a hat-trick against us. I think that was the only game we lost. We were outstanding. And it was from George. But then my son George, my son George is quite a clever boy. And when we got to Notts County, after keeping them up at Notts County, I had a good chat with George and he said, "Brilliant, Dad. Well done, well done." He said, "It's about," and my son's quite clever, by the way, believe it or not. He's a chartered accountant. Ooh. Don't know how. It ain't from me. And he said, "Dad, you need now to think. You keep saving teams from getting relegation. Everywhere you've been, you've stopped the relegation and you've turned it round." He said, "What you need in your CV is a team to get promoted, and you're not going to be doing it playing that way. You're going to have to look at something different." So that's what I set out to do. And to win those 2 championships, playing with 4-1-3-2 and working out my own training drills and rules or guidelines to play in that effective type of unit has been the most rewarding. And I was desperate, absolutely desperate to get a 3rd championship. And then I was going to quit. I'm not going to do that job anymore anyway, as you well know, Paul, but I wanted one more championship. To go out with 3 gold medals would have been awesome. I think the only way you can do it nowadays is to play more football and get that ball on the grass and knock it about and play with some zip.
That's very interesting. That is very interesting. Talk to me. You've been a manager for a long time. You have a great persona with fans. I think you probably understand fans better than any other manager I've ever come across or worked with. Yeah. You understand the mentality of the fan. You understand what it means to the fan. So Ian Burchnall is in his first full season at Notts County. You've got Phil Parkinson, done it a lot, will be under huge pressure at Wrexham. Paul Hurst's been there, done it as well. Gary Johnson been round the block many times. What is it like? Because you've experienced this, and you're now a bit more of a detached role from it. What's it like for the likes of Ian Burchnall this season? What do they go through? I'm not talking about what tactics they play or anything like that, but what sort of pressures, what sort of things do they go through? Because everybody wants a piece of them. And the book always stops with them, doesn't it? What's that like, living with that?
Honest answer to your question. I can only relate to myself, and maybe you can turn it into these young men that I mentioned earlier. When you're 33 and a doctor or a consultant in Harley Street in the hospital said to me after the operation, you will never play professional football again. Your career, I'm afraid, Martin, is over. I had two boys, I think they were 8 and 10, and my career was over. That meant after a year after that conversation, I would have no income. I had no qualifications. At school, I just messed about, and the only thing I could do, I could write in journalism, but the rest of it was rubbish. I didn't bother.
Yeah, Leigh didn't even have that skill.
Pardon?
Leigh didn't even have that skill.
Leigh?
Yeah, ability to write, journalism. Didn't even have that.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
the
you mean.
journalist for the Nottingham Post, you see. I'm having a little dig.
Oh,
It's
sorry,
obviously
Leigh.
gone over everybody's head. Don't worry about it.
Sorry, Leigh. Went over my head. Sorry, Leigh. And so when you've then got to provide food for your family and paid a mortgage, and I hadn't earned enough money that I was going to be comfortable, that I didn't have to do anything. I had a fierce desire and a drive. I had to find something to do, and I needed to get a job. I had to get a job, and I wanted to coach because I'd written down everything that George Graham had taught me when I was a youth player, picked up bits and pieces along from all these coaches and managers in my career. And I was ready. I felt ready, and I wanted an opportunity to manage and coach. Going up against experienced managers, and you could imagine I was fighting really to put food on the table for my family, literally. So in the technical area, when I first started at Barnet, whoever the manager was in the other dugout, I wanted to fight him every week. It was like, wherever we go, home or away, there was a tear up. Literally, there was a tear up before the game in the tunnel, during the game on the side of the pitch. And I used to stand there and trade verbally, threaten them physically to intimidate so that we would win. Those horrible eyes. It would be there. And after the game, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I was the enemy. I was hated by everyone. But we used to keep winning. And the players were told they were not to get involved. I told them not to say anything or get into the opposition, not join in with it. And I would do all that, and they had to play and be good boys, and I would be the naughty boy. And I had a big goalkeeper coach called George Bancoli, who some of you may remember. Well, George Bancoli is 6'5", and he's bigger. He's bigger than Anthony Joshua, and he can fight. And he was my goalkeeper coach. So as soon as anything kicked off, George would go from the other end of the technical area and stand in front of me, and he'd look at me and say, "You got a problem? I'm here." So going back to your question, for these young managers, going in to take this season on and this campaign and this challenge to try to get, 95 points to get promoted.
Yeah.
I stand to be corrected on that, but I think that might be the number they need. They've got to be looking at that thinking, I'm going to do everything in my power, psychologically, mentally, everything is 24/7. The job is 24/7. And when the results are not good, it is the worst, loneliest, most isolated job in the world. People don't ring you. You know about the criticism. Your family and your children read stuff on social media, and you are left isolated and on your own. When your team wins, you're the hero. You're the best. Everyone wants to talk to you. You get text messages from everybody. People ring you for a chat. You go into the town and people talk to you. If you lose, it's awful. It is an awful job. And I've been on the receiving end of both ends. I've had it both ways. For these young men, it's such a great opportunity at the ages that they're at to make a career for themselves. And if I were them now, I'd be looking at an ambition of getting into be a manager in the Championship. It's going to be tough to get into the Premier League as a job, but these men, they've got an opportunity if they've really got that belief and that self-belief to get themselves pushed up into the Championship as managers and have good careers, not only for themselves but their family and their lifestyle and living. It's all to play for, and how exciting is it right now? I'd love it, but I don't want to do it anymore.
I was gonna. Have you come to terms now with inverted commas retiring as a frontline manager, Martin, or not?
Yeah. I was invited to Brentford on Friday night, and so I think there was nearly 17,000 people, and I got into the stadium early to witness the occasion. You know, a club that I was at for 2.5 years, to be in a situation that they are now in the Premier League from when I was there is quite unbelievable. And the noise of 17,000, I had it when it was 7,000, and it was unbelievable. When I was there, the noise was unreal with 7, and now where there's nearly 17, to stand there up in the director's box looking down, and when the manager came out, he got a standing ovation, and that used to be me every week. I'd come out and the crowd would just go absolutely bonkers, and I used to play to it, of course, and smile at them and punch my fist and growl at them. We were ready for the battle of Brentford. Seeing it now, I love it. I love that feeling, but I don't love it enough where I want to put myself through the hours that you have to work, the time that you have to work, and the stress. I just don't really feel my health, I think, is more important to me, and my well-being, sleeping and having a healthy. Because you can imagine the type of manager I've been is been high tempo, high stress. The way I am as a person. And it feels nice now when I can walk my dog, ride my bike, go and do gym classes, with all the women that have got blue Stilton in their calves. Don't tell them I said that, but that's what it looks like. They've got all those varicose veins in their legs.
You're not those spinning classes, then, are you? You're in the spinning class.
Oh, Pilates, I do that sort of stuff. And it's actually quite nice, having a different kind of a life, and much nicer, much friendlier. And I can just go around and watch games without getting all stressed or anxious, and sleep well. And it's nice to look back and have these sorts of chats and remember the good times that we had at Notts County. And, we were talking with Leigh earlier about the times at Lincoln, which with John Schofield. So it's good memories, good times. And it's exciting. I love it.
We're nearly wrapped up. I want to bring on. We're fortunate now, Martin, when we get some access, as well as all the former players. We speak with some current players as well. And Kewell Roberts, who of course you would know, is kind of the jewel in the crown, I think, of Notts County's group of players. And so I did a 1.5 hour interview with Kewell last week. It's going to be broadcast on Thursday of this week, giving it a good plug. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant with Kewell, and thanks to the club for helping facilitate it. And Kewell volunteered something, and I guess this is kind of, you speak about a younger person's job. different philosophy, different approach. So Kewell gave us the story of sitting down with the head coach as a group of players, and they were talking about set pieces. And I think it's fair to say one of your great strengths was your organisation. In recent times at Notts, set pieces, scoring from them, conceding them, stopping crosses coming in, winning first balls has been a challenge for quite a while. And Kel brought this up voluntarily to say they'd had a meeting about set pieces, and that with this new data, if they could concede 4 fewer goals from set pieces than Notts did last year, and if they could score 6 more goals than Notts managed last year from set pieces, Notts would have a 19% better chance of winning National League Championship this year. I'm guessing there are computations about points lost as a result of set pieces and everything. That's a very, very analytical approach to it. You only have to look at Gareth Southgate with England, to the importance they attach to set pieces, scoring and defending. How important set pieces for you in the modern game and to achieving success?
Well, it's crucial, isn't it? You know, we saw that. What was that competition England were in? Not the Euros now. Was it the World Cup last year? Well, I don't think we scored a goal apart from a set play from Harry Maguire's forehead, did we? It was just like that was our only chance. Every time we got a corner or a free kick, they'd clearly been worked on. They clearly had blocks to allow Maguire to get free from his man marking. I think they had 4 people around the penalty spot, didn't they?
Love train, they called it, wasn't it? That was what they called it. Love train.
Pardon?
The love train. That's what they called it.
Love train.
Yeah, because
the media gave it because
yeah,
they all
what the media. Yeah, because they all stood behind each other, didn't they, in a row, as if they were in a
love train.
Yeah, that's what they called it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Anyway,
that one.
Yeah,
love
go
train.
on.
They all got on the love train. That's a song, isn't it? Jeez, I've come on here and I've found out about a new film called Red Bull, and now we've got a song called Love Train, and it's all involved with football. Where's all that come from? No, well, we all know, don't we? And it's all well and good. Some uni boy coming up with, well, if we get 9 more goals, we're going to get promoted. Well, let me sign a player that's going to shown over the last few years that each year is going to get between 8 and 10 goals from set plays, i.e. free kicks and corners. If you want to get one of those players, we'll certainly improve that 9 goal this year, but we have to pay X, Y, Z. So it's okay, the analyst's telling you that, but you've still got to go to the boss who's got all the money and say, can we have these wages, please, to play that bloke that's going to, top it up to 9 goals a season. And it'll be the same bloke probably that heads it out of your box. I saw a game on Friday night, which I think I mentioned a minute ago, and Arsenal conceded a goal from a long throw, and they had a centre half playing whose cost is 50 million pound, and he didn't head the ball out on a long throw into your box. I mean, you might be laughing, but if I was the owner of Arsenal and I'd pay 50 million pound for a centre back and he didn't go up and head that ball out your box, then I don't think I'd be very happy, even if I've got billions, if I've spent 50 million when he ain't going to go and head it. That bloke I had at Barnet, where did I have him? Sodgy. So I had a bloke called Sam Sodgy. Oh my God, a free transfer. But could he edit in that box and could he edit in that box? He got 8 a season in for us attacking, and anything that came into it, we didn't ever give him a position to mark in. We called it the Drogba on the 6-yard box position. So any corner, you stand there, and when they kick it in, you edit right down there. As simple as that. And that's what he did. And he was a free transfer from Margate. And that's what he was good at. And he went on to play in the Premier League. He went on to play for his country. He went on to play in the World Cup. As basic as what it may sound. Nice stats, Paul. Well done. But show me the player that's going to fulfill it and deliver the set plays to score it.
Mm. Did you find, Martin, when you were recruiting centre halves, that there were certain centre backs who just loved heading the ball?
Oh God, blimey! You know that Sodgy bloke?
Yeah.
He didn't need football boots. He didn't need football boots. He just heads it. He just heads it, and he heads it miles. Somehow he's got something in his neck that just goes boom, and it's go miles. And he could climb so high. When we played away at Southampton in the 5th round of the FA Cup, in those days the goalkeeper used to boot it down the pitch. You know, we don't see that anymore. And they had a bloke playing at Southampton. His name was Peter Crouch. And so Sodgy stood next to Crouch. The first ball came down the pitch in the right-hand side channel, where, you know, Peter Crouch used to go on the angle between our right back and Sodgy. Oh, my God. Sodgy jumped as high as the floodlights and headed it right back to the goalkeeper and said, try again. And Crouch was looking at him thinking, where's this kid come from? No, those players are absolutely crucial. And we got into the playoffs. We lost in the playoffs, and we actually had a negative, believe it or not, we had a negative goal difference because we were so hard to beat playing George Graham's style of football, and so hard to beat because of Sodgy and another centre-back we took who used to practice his heading before training. Was a guy called Michael Turner. Have you heard of Michael Turner? He used to play for Sunderland and Norwich.
Yeah.
I signed him from Charlton for 15,000, and Sodgy used to get all the plaudits because he could edit and score goals. So I called Michael in the office and said, well, for you to improve this, you need to get in each day half an hour before everybody else, and I'll get our little winger called Jay Tab, who was in the reserves at Brentford when I joined, Irish boy, who went on to play for Ireland, right? And said, Tabby, you need to come in half an hour earlier. You deliver, and he'll edit. And so Turner and Tab used to do. Sodgy didn't do it because he was always late for training, because he always used to bunk on the trains to get to training, and he was always late. So Tab and Turner, who both ended up playing in the Premier League, would practice these headers. And one Saturday night, I was eating Chinese like you do at 10:20 on a Saturday night with the sweet and sour balls and the sauce running down my chin. And Turner came up from the halfway line for a corner for Sunderland, and he scored between the 6-yard box and the penalty spot with an header that went straight into the stanchion. So you can imagine, as I wouldn't say as his coach, I definitely wasn't his manager, he was more like a son to me. So to see your lad who practiced and trained and done that skill repeatedly for months and months and months, a couple of years later, scoring in the Premier League, Chinese went everywhere. Dog loved it. And special moment.
Here's a question, Martin, from Mr. Neil H.O. We have all sorts of names on there on our chat boards here. Would Martin consider a coaching, scouting, or director of football role now, as he's effectively ruled out managing front line again?
Yeah, I have thought about those things. The best thing I do at the moment, and I've not named names, I help managers when I can see they're struggling and they're up against it. I often ring them and I try and help them if I can. I can't help all of them because some of them don't want no help. And I think that's been my most rewarding thing. I do a few other things in football, in and around football, like West Ham. I'm one of their ambassadors, so I'm allowed, or not allowed, I go to their home games and do the restaurants and the bars at the London Stadium. I also do that now at Brentford in the Premier League, so that's great going back to that.
Very good, yeah.
And I do a couple of other things for the FA and the Premier League. So I can't talk about those things, which is all good fun. So I've got plenty of nice little bits and pieces that I do. I also do people's gardens in the village where I live, who haven't been able to get them done because they're old and they haven't been very well. And I help them cut their grass and look after them. I don't get paid for it. But I just try and help and be nice to people who can't cut their grass and do their bits, and then go to games. And the people around it where I live is kind of posh. I've got the smallest house here. I live in the rough bit, but all the nice houses, they've got loads of money, but they're too old to cut the grass, so I help them out, which is nice.
You're a huge dog lover, and if I remember right, Monty the Black Labrador was revered among Notts County fans, and I believe several fans used to give him a walk before games.
Oh yeah.
And now I'm trying to remember the last time we spoke. Is it Dennis the Dachshund you've got now?
No, I've got Dennis. When I took over at Barnet and the chairman rang me again, the first game was away at Luton on the Saturday. I took training on the Thursday, and then on the Thursday afternoon, I took Monty for a little walk, and he couldn't go further than 20 yards. So we had to make that dreaded trip to the vet. So he never got to see the Luton game, which he was looking forward to going there. He's been substituted by Dennis, who's a black lab. He's a good boy, and he runs about and he's happy as Larry. So he's 2 years old now. So he's my company who I take walking. And of course, there's little Bill the Dachshund who's biting and snarling and does all his bits and pieces as well. But he's a bit older now.
Right. So Dennis the Labrador, Bill the Dachshund.
Yes, yeah?
Yeah. Because Leigh, I mean, I think managers do find quite a bit of solace with man's best friend and their dog. Because I think you did a big story, didn't you, when Neil Ardley, our former manager, Martin, had a Labrador that he doted on, and I know Neil was really cut up when his pet had to be put down, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was before the Solihull Moors game. I think he got a phone call just before the game to say that the dog was seriously ill and was not going to make it. And he was devastated, because I imagine, like Martin says, football management is probably the loneliest job in the world when things are going against you. But the good thing about dogs is they don't really care, do they? That's why they call a man's best friend, because they're with you through the good times, the bad times, and the mood never changes, do they? Apart from when you don't feed them.
No, he's no. There's something different. I don't know. So for people that don't, not that bothered, which is fine. I'm not here to. Everyone's got their own choice on pets and animals and all that sort of stuff. No, he's an absolute diamond. I don't go anywhere without him. He's blinking epileptic now. That's the only bad thing. He's had 2 fits in the last 3 months, so now he's on medication after having brain scans and all that sort of stuff. MRI scans. I didn't know a dog could have an MRI scan.
Right. Yeah.
So no, he's okay now, but he's had 2. Oh my God! And when it happened, I was crying my eyes out, thinking, "What the hell am I going to do?" So no, he's absolutely fine now on his medication, and he's running around. He's the happiest dog in the world. And I do feel for Neil Ardley, because that would have been dreadful for him. Because you are right. Being a football manager, you do your interviews, you do the players, you do the staff, then you have to speak to the chairman or the owner on the way home in the car, and then after that it goes quiet. It goes very, very quiet. And when you get home and see your dog, and of course your family, because it's disrespectful to say that your family are not there for you, but they don't care what the result is. He's in the same mood day in, day out. It don't matter if you're top of the league, bottom of the league, a champion, or just got the sack. They're exactly the same. And he has been a godsend to me for sure.
Martin, your time as always. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It's been 80 minutes have flown by. Loads of best wishes messages from a whole group of our supporters on the message board. Kevin J.S. Duska Jr. Now that is a name. Kevin J.S. Duska Jr. Big Notts fan, lives in Montreal. Says, what a guy. Les Brearley, what a true man.
Don't worry about all that. You read them to yourself. I don't want to know about that. Leigh,
yes.
My eyes ain't great. Are you an MP?
No, NP stands for Nottingham Post.
Oh yeah. I thought it said you was an MP, and I thought I'm talking to someone posh.
Oh no, believe me, no, you're definitely not. No.
Yeah, it looks like MP from NP.
I wish I was on an MP's salary.
No.
Oh dear. Ian Burchnall. Now that's Ian we have someone that's on our every show, Martin. Ian Burchnall. Slightly different spelling to Ian. So this is Ian Burchnall, the fan, as opposed to Ian Burchnall, the Notts County head coach. He says, who will win Saturday, Martin? Two of your obviously clubs very close to your heart. Harry Kewell's first game there, isn't it, as well, at Barnet as well? I mean, what do you expect from the National League this season? Do you think it's going to go to one of the big guns ultimately, or do you think there's another surprise package out there from a Sutton type that surprise everyone? Or do you think the money will talk a little bit this year because so much has been spent? Wrexham, Stockport, Chesterfield, ourselves, Grimsby, Southend.
Well, I don't see Southend doing it. No, I think that club that gets relegated. It happened to Notts County. It definitely happened to Chesterfield. When you get relegated from the Football League to the conference, or whatever you call it, the next division, there's a massive cloud that hangs over the club, the players, the staff, all of you, media. They don't like it. No, who likes going Sutton away? Where are you going? Who you play? Wealdstone away? Where's that? Where's Maidenhead? Do we really want? We're used to being in the Football League, so that does take time. So I think Southend are going to be finding it very difficult. Grim. Well, for a couple of years, I think they're going to find it tough.
Well, that's a bit unfortunate with Martin experiencing internet connectivity difficulties just as he's about to say, and the winner of the National League, I think, will be Notts County with 97 points. Mick Dundee says, great interview, one of the best yet, watching from Melbourne in Australia. Hope your connection's a little bit better. Ian Burchnall says, Leigh for Prime Minister. It does appear as if that is the longest we've seen Martin motionless and voiceless on a screen clip. I think he's trying to get back in. We'll just
I'm
give
back
it
now, Paul.
We've got you, Martin.
Yeah. Well, I can't see you, but that don't matter.
So
I think that Wrexham are going to be the favourites. Personally, I think they're going to be the favourites with a very good manager and the budget that they've got. They should do it. And then from the rest, I think my surprise one would come from Boreham Wood, because I think their manager is a very good manager, Luke Gerrard. That would be one of them surprisey ones that you were talking about. And then after that, with Torquay, Chesterfield, I like James Rowe and how he's approached that job. And I've listened to some of his interviews and I like him. Stockport, God knows what's happening there with that one. I thought Jim Gannon had done all right there. So why they got rid of him, I've no idea. So they could do it. Gary Johnson, of course, with his wealth of experience. It can go Pete Tong after you lose in the playoffs like they did for a little while. So there might be a shadow hanging over there. And of course, it's about time that Chesterfield and Notts County, I really would love to see both those clubs getting back into the Football League, because both sets of supporters I thought were honest, hard-working. I thought it was a hard-working, not flash, hard-working, working class people that love their football. Well, I don't say that in any rudeness to them. I didn't think they were prawn sandwich brigade, if you know what I'm saying. And I liked them and had an affinity with them. So I would love, not in any order, both those clubs to get back into the Football League.
Martin, that's a great note on which to end. Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to welcoming you later on in the season. Sounds like you have a nice mix now as well in terms of West Ham with the hospitality. Great that you can get along to Brentford and the new setup there, which is clearly hugely successful. And you've got your other bits and pieces in football. So we wish you every success and hope you enjoy yourself, because you certainly deserve the opportunity to do that with all the hard hard yards you put in. For my money, you probably, as a manager, understand the DNA of Notts County better than any manager that we've had for probably 20 years and more. You know, I think you got it at Notts. You understood what this club was about, and the way you connected so positively with fans was brilliant. And it was such a travesty, really, that your time at Notts was ended so prematurely. And as we both know, I think it's a decision that subsequently Ray realised he'd dropped a ricket there. And to this day, I know you don't want to say too much about it, but to this day, I have no idea how anybody in their right minds at Notts County Football Club could end up plumping for John Sheridan as manager rather than you for a second stint. One of life's great mysteries. However, it's happened. We wish you all the very, very best in the future. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you later in the season, Martin.
Oh, lovely to speak to you both. Hope I didn't talk to... No. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care, Martin.
Take care,
Thank you to everybody for joining.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Take care, Martin.
Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you
Bye-bye,
to
Leigh.
everyone that's taken part in the
Cheers,
show.
Martin. Take care.
Bye, Leigh. Take care. Bye. Bye.
And thank you to all our viewers and listeners for taking part in tonight. Hope you've enjoyed that. It's pretty unique when Martin's about. Leigh, that's the most comfortable. You can just sit back in your armchair and watch and listen to that, can't you? I mean,
it was brilliant, because I think, you know, you got a proper insight into not only what, you know, how successful and what goes into being a successful manager, but the things that perhaps people don't see, you know, the outside, the emotions, the loneliness of the job, you know, the stress of it, because you're carrying everybody's hopes and expectations. And like Martin said, you know, you're the king of the world when you're winning every week, but you know, when you're not doing so well, nobody picks up the phone, nobody wants to talk to you. Criticism is very easy to see nowadays, especially with social media. So no, I thought it was a fantastic and really enlightening hour and a half.
Yeah, and thank you. And we'll be getting you on again soon, and we can talk a little bit more detail about this whole spend policy that seems to be going on in the National League at the moment. Wednesday night we will be back, not Tuesday. Wednesday night we have a show with Mark Stallard joining us. Mark will be looking at it from an analytical point of view, runners and riders. What can we expect from the National League this season? Mark's been opening the batting for cricket for most of the summer, so we look forward to getting him to dust off his batting gloves and his whatever else, his cricket whites ahead of the weekend. And then on Thursday, brilliant interview with Kewell Roberts. 90 minutes plus 10 minutes stoppage time. He will talk about turning down a 3-year contract with Panathinaikos. He will talk about swapping shirts with Kevin De Bruyne when Newcastle played Manchester City. He will talk in great detail and depth about the whole series of injuries that plagued him, and the moment when one specialist told him, if this doesn't work, you are bleep. Thankfully, it did work. Kewell Roberts has come back, and we know he has such a hugely important role to play for us, and you will be able to listen to the innermost thoughts of Kewell, the thoughts and plans, and how he hopes one day to return to the Premier League. That's it for all tonight. Ian Burchnall says, night Jim, night Sue Ellen. I think that must be, I've no idea what that means. It's either his family or the summing joke that I've...
Is it the Waltons? I think that's the Waltons, isn't it? Is it the Waltons?
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. Okay. Ian Burchnall, never a dull moment with Mad Dog, superb entertainment. Thank you all. Mick Dundee, great interview, one of the best yet, watching from Melbourne, Australia. Ian Burchnall, Leigh for Prime Minister. Well, you've got the dodgy hair for it, haven't you? You've got the dodgy, unkempt hair.
I don't know, actually. He's looking pretty... after all the slating I took on here for like all throughout the summer, I went and had a, semi tidy cut, I'd say.
Hey, Leigh, again, as always, thank you for your time. All gearing up. You will be at Barnet, presumably, on Saturday?
Yeah, won't miss it for the world. No, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a fantastic and fascinating season. I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how it all unfolds, because for my money, I think the National League now is pretty much, certainly the top half is pretty much like League Two, in terms of budgets, crowd sizes. We're all going to have the fans back, so I'm looking forward to having all the atmosphere again. Big games, don't have long to wait. You've got Harry Kewell obviously coming up against Notts at the weekend, so there's another subplot. So yeah, I can't wait for it all to get started, and I'm just pleased that the fans are back again, and can't wait to see the cops swaying and singing. Once we start packing in a few home wins.
Well, it should be good on Saturday, because I think we've sold about 700-800 tickets. So basically, I think the way it will pan out, we will have one entire end behind one of the goals at Barnet, the 66 stand or something they call it.
Yeah, I mean, Notts have always been fantastic travellers, haven't they? I mean, great away support. I still remember Oldham away in the Great Escape. I mean, pretty much took over Boundary Park that day, near enough.
Yeah.
Always been fantastic support on the road and at home as well. When that cop's in full voice, it's different gravy. So I can't wait for it. I can't wait for the season to start, because I think obviously having all the fans back inside Meadow Lane, I think it will make a huge difference to their home record this year.
Yeah, and that's clearly going to be one of the key indicators to us fulfilling objectives or not, as the case may be. So, Leigh, thank you very much indeed. We'll let you get on. It's obviously getting dark in Lincoln.
I know, I keep forgetting to switch my light on. I was going to switch it on midway through, and then I decided Martin was in full voice. I didn't want to appear rude and go and switch on as if I wasn't paying attention, but no. So,
no, pleasure to have you on. See you at Barnet on Saturday. And here's, we hope, everything crossed for 3 points from Saturday afternoon from the Hive at Barnet. Take care for now. Bye-bye, everyone.
Cheers.